Hi everyone, this is Christy with Paper Hoarder Disorder, and we are back for video number 3 for our holiday recipe album, or our simple Christmas album, 4x6 photo album. So here's where we left off after in video 2, and we have already made our pages in video number 1, and we've wrapped our cover in video 2. And so what we're going to do now is we are going to measure out our binding cover. And so this one's already scored up, but let me show you exactly how I did it. This piece, now depending on how deep your punch is, you may need to make this wider, but this one is at 5.5 by 4.5. It's 4.5 inches tall, 5.5 inches wide. If you have a deep edge punch, then you might want to go up to 6.5 maybe. So either way, before you punch it, let's go ahead and measure it out. And what I do is, see, this is the reason why we put those back on there, and we make sure that those stick down, so that it helps us mark where those valleys are in between. So we're going to kind of just eyeball this, and we're going to try to make equal distance. It's a little hard for you to see. Let's try to zoom in. What we're going to do is in between, what we're going to do is we're going to try to center this between the edges of these two outer edges, and we're going to center it in there. And what I did was I marked with my stylus, which is a ball tip. A ball tip is a stylus, and then so I marked right here, and I marked right here, right where those valleys are, right where those gutters are in between our pieces of chipboard. And then once you have those marked on there, then we're going to bring out our scoreboard, and we're going to line those up with the nearest coordinating line and score it down. And these will always be, they should be about 2 3/4 inch in the distance. So for example, I put this one, I'm sorry, 2.5, because it's 2 and the way we get to that is this is 2 1/4 plus 1/8 of an inch here and 1/8 of an inch here to the center points. So that gives us the 2.5. So if this is at 2, then this one should be at 4.5, and it is. And so they should be 2.5 inches distance between the two of them. So we've got that scored, and we're going to kind of bend that up. Actually, let's bend it up away from the score. So we've got that bent up away from the score. And we're just training it so that it can bend more freely. And I might have been off camera. Let's zoom back out again. And here we go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to punch our edge. And I've chose this, boy, that's still off just a little bit. Okay. Let's see here. Let's just get you back in focus. Let's zoom in just one more time. That's better. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do our punch, and I'm going to find a good spot on here for us to, let's see, in between these two, I think is good. We're right about there, actually. So we're going to punch there, punch again, and we're going to, let's see, punch one more time. And this one we're going to want to match it up. So let's see here. Punch. I suppose I could have probably done this ahead of time, but there may be some of you out there that are struggling with lining up your punches, so maybe this is helpful. Okay, so let's get rid of that. And what we're going to do here is we are only going to take off these two center pieces that are on the center spine. And what I'm going to do is I am going to, just where the chipboard is, not on the paper, but just where the exposed chipboard is, I'm going to add glue. Not a ton, but not too skimpy either. And then just on the center part of here, I'm going to add some more glue. You want to stay about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Oops, got a little bit on there. And then we are going to center this on there, making sure that our lines are lined up with those valleys. And so we're just sticking down the center. All right. And now you have to decide what you would like on your liners before we glue these down. And I've already pre-cut mine, and I'm going with these green and brown polka dots. And so I'm going to go ahead and glue these on now. Actually, this is paperweight, and I'm going to use ATG because glue always shows up on paperweight. And so I'm just going to go ahead and use my ATG. And I'm not going to worry about centering it on this side. I'm just going to worry about these three sides. All right. That one's on there. Wow, that's showing really green. It's not nearly that bright in real life. It almost looks neon. Oops. ATG's getting hung up on me. All right. So, there we go. Roll over some of those edges that go past the edge. Get rid of our needle. Just going to line this up. And try to center it as best as possible. There we go. And we've got our center stuck down, and what we're going to do now is we're going to pull up this tape, and we are going to make sure you add a bead of glue in front of that, because we're going to make these pockets. So I am just going to add a little bit of glue there. And the reason why I'm covering in front of that score tape is because that will, whatever we stick in that pocket will get hung up and get stuck in that score tape. Okay, so I'm kind of using my finger to push down. You can also use a cuticle stick to kind of rock that into place. and it doesn't want to go for me. So I'm just going to start working it down in there with my finger, and I'm going to line that up. Best I can. And then I'm going to do this other side. And I'm going to move here. I'm going to start tucking it down into that kind of ditch, into that valley. Let's stick down my piece right in front of where that score tape is. Make sure that glue is in there, and you can start bending this up. Now you only want to go up to the 90-degree angle, because that's as far as your book should ever bend and should ever need to bend. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting it at that angle, and I'm making sure that everything's sticking down and staying down, because as you start to move it, sometimes things like to pull up on you until that glue sets. So we're just making sure that it's sticking proper. And this one popped back up again because he's not cured yet. And so you want to take a minute to make sure that that's right and test it till everything's cured. Okay, and so there we have that. And let's go ahead and get our pages in there. And so we're going to start, we have our 8 pages and they're already ready to go. And so what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that we come about 1/8 of an inch from the distance from where this score line is in this. Let me show you where we're going to go. If we can zoom in on this. Okay, so we're going to put the edge, let me straighten this out a little bit. We're going to put the edge of this page, the binding edge, about there. If you can see the distance here between the edge of, and you can't hardly, but you want to make sure that you're not in that score line, which is in between the 2 pieces of chipboard. You want to come back about 1/8 of an inch over here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to come back that 1/8 of an inch. We're going to center it top and bottom. Pull it back just a little bit further, and then we're going to make sure that it is straight this way. Top and bottom over here. We're going to hold it in place with our left hand, and mind you, I'm right-handed. And then we are going to apply, you can either put one little bead of glue on the binding tab of our waterfall binding, or you can put it straight onto the binding itself, onto the book itself, on the spine. So this is, again, another great time to be using. You can give good pressure with that, right where you need it. Flip it over, burnish it down. You can use your bone folder as well. And it's really important that you get it from the back side here, because that helps distribute that glue out evenly. Okay, so there's our first page. We're going to go with our second page, and what I do is I flatten it out. Now we don't want it to go over, we don't want it to go under, we just want to go right next to the page before. And again, we're going to just touch over here, or just a hair away from not touching. We're going to make sure it's centered top and bottom here, and then we're going to make sure that it's centered top and bottom here. And so we're going to shift it up just a little bit, hold it in place. You're going to pull back that tab, and if I wanted to, I could add that little bead, thin bead of glue right to the center there, and I stop just a little bit shy of the end because you know your glue is going to spread. And I also, you'll see that I start in the center and I slow down and I lift up the pressure when it comes close to the edge, and that's to avoid it seeping out. One good thing that you can do when you're, this is a small area, and if you're not used to using glue, always start with a light hand when you're pushing down the glue so that you can kind of test whether the glue is going to seep out or not. And you can just take it easy and give it time to cure so that it doesn't smear all over the place. So basically what I would do is I would just lightly touch and just lightly push it down until it starts to grab. And just little by little I start pushing harder and harder and get closer to the edges to get a nice bond. And if there's a little bit of overlap that I need to kind of tuck it in, then I use my cuticle stick. If there's any glue seeping out, I use my cuticle stick to kind of pick it up and remove it away, rather than if I try to use my nail, a lot of times it'll smear. So there's page 3. And you can actually go through these rather quickly. Pull it back, then bead a glue, and you just have to get to know, the right pressure and the right amount of glue for your projects, and that just comes with experience of just using glue. And the more you use it, the better you get at using it. So there's that, and don't forget to burnish from the back side. Really spread that glue out evenly, because remember, this is the only thing that's holding your pages in your book, and so you don't want to get too stingy with the glue, but you also don't want just a mess of it everywhere. Although there is a cheat that I have kind of come across recently, making a project too quickly, and I wasn't really happy with a couple smears on the binding, and so it got a little shiny here and there. And so how I fixed that was, let me go ahead and burnish this down, is that I cut a piece of pattern paper just a little bit smaller than the binding. So this is a 1/4 inch binding, so I'd want to, for example, take, let me find a contrasting piece. So let's say, okay, so this isn't quite long enough, but it would be the same length, so this would normally be 4 1/4. Let's just go ahead and do that. So out of the 4 1/4, let's just say we have our 4 1/4 piece, okay, which is, oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Was that 4 1/2? It was 4 1/2, silly me. Okay, so we're going to go to 4 1/2. One more try here. We're going to go to 4 1/2. Okay, so we've got the same distance. Actually, it's a smidge, it's a hair long, so we'll shave it down just a little bit. And then what we'll do is we want to make a strip that's just a little bit shy of that 1/4 inch. And so let's go to right about here. And so we'll just assume that this is pattern paper. Now you can take that pattern paper and you can glue it straight in there, and it would coordinate in between all of your pages. Just make sure that when you do glue that in there, the reason why you want it smaller than a 1/4 inch is because you don't want it to get in the way of your page being able to fold, because there are, it still has to, you cannot cover over this score line right here, is because that's where it pivots from. So you'll have to test it out and make sure, like this one might actually even be a little bit too wide. you definitely, this is almost exactly a 1/4 inch, and you definitely want to be under a 1/4 inch. Or if it's a 3/8 inch binding, you definitely want to be smaller than that 3/8. But if you glue this in there, then you can hide a lot of boo-boos that way, and it looks pretty neat when it's all together. And I'll be sure to post a video on my YouTube channel showing the project that I did that on, so that you guys will have a better idea of what it looks like finished. So there's my little get out of jail free card as far as messy glue on the binding. So that's a little tight, so I'm going to come back a little bit, pull it back. I like to add my glue to the spine. I used to add it to the tab itself, but I find it easier to add it to the spine. But it's whatever works best for you. And we can put that out of the way. Burnish that down. And we've got 2 more pages. So we're going to line it up. Pull it back. Remember, start your glue a little bit short of the edge. And that one got a little bit much in there. Now I usually, as you can see, when I have excess glue, I always wipe it on the top of my left hand, because if you wipe it on your desk, it's almost guaranteed you're going to put your project right in that glue. So if I put it on top of my hand, when I'm finished working, you know, I just wash my hands, and I always know where it is, and it never gets in the way, and it comes off very easily. So that's what I always do. So if you ever have a problem not knowing where to put the glue, or always searching for a baby wipe, that might be a quick way for you to kind of keep moving with your project. So here's our last page. And we're going to clean up just a little bit more. I'm not sure if I burnished that one before. Definitely going to burnish that. We left a little bit of room in the back. So there we go. So look how nice and even our spacing is. Let's see if we can focus in on that. You can see that. Came out just great. It's not really focusing in. We've got a little bit. Let me see if I can get the lighting here. Oh, there we go. Now you can really see that spacing. See how easy that is? See, it's not thick, it's not bunched up, it was easy to do, and it's a nice, strong binding system. The waterfall is very strong because it's part of the page. And so, anywho, so we've got our pages in, and right now we can, I usually wait to decorate the outside until I'm done with everything, because things like there being glue on the table and it rubbing back and forth, and so I typically do not put on the pattern paper on the outside until I'm done with everything else. So we're going to make this one a recipe album, and I've picked out some recipe cards, and these are quite cute. Let's see, these are kind of washing out. They're really washing out. Let's see. Okay, so these are craft colored. You can see them a little better now. So these are craft colored, and we've got some lettuce and I think that's asparagus or artichoke, mushrooms, and carrots. And so I've got 4 different kinds, and I believe I picked out 3 for each page, I think. So there should be 24. So there's that, and what we're going to do is the pages that I'm using, I'm going to just start with the lettuce. And these are 4x6s, which will fit perfectly on our pages with a 1/4 inch all the way around. And so I am just going to, I think I will go ahead and ink those up, and I'm going to use some walnut stain. Pretty much my favorite. That and black soot. And so I'm going to make this look kind of aged and weathered because the paper that I'm using is Jenny Bolin. And let me show you that. It's from the Family Tree paper pad. And again, these greens are really showing really neon. I'm not going to mess with my camera because it's doing better now than it was on the other videos. But that's the paper I'm using, and Jenny Bolin's tends to be very kind of rustic, very farm girl-ish. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue that down. Now, if you want to use your ATG or your score tape, of course, if you want it to last a good long time, I would do the score tape over the ATG, but I use glue. Use whatever you're comfortable with. So I'm going to just put that down on there. Do a tiny bit of cleanup. And I am also going to show you how to make your own photo corners. So, Martha Stewart does have a photo corner punch. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Yes. Okay, so she does have one that you can use. But I found a way for those people. Here's her punch. So there's her photo corner punch, which I know is still available. So you can, if you have this, you can use this. But if you don't, that's okay, because I can show you how to do it. So this is what hers does. So you got to pull it out of there. So this is what hers does. Do you see how it scores it? It punches it, and you get this little notch here, and you get 2 score marks on the side. And what you do, as always, you fold away from the scored line to the back, and there's your photo corner. Now, when I put these in my original book, they kept on getting hung up on my embellishments and on my pattern paper. And so what I did was I took a piece of I just took a piece of scratch cardstock. Let's find some scissors. And basically, I just made a triangle. Well, that's got a score on it. But basically, I just made a triangle out of the paper. Once that was already on there, and because that kept on hanging up on there, then I just glued the triangle on top of it like this. Okay? Which took more work. So I came up with a way that you can make your own. And so what you need to do is you need to cut some 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 squares. And let's go ahead and put this over here to the side. Well, actually, we are going to need our scissors. So we'll get out our scoreboard. And what we're going to do is we've got our 1 1/4 square. We are going to score at 1 inch. You can turn it clockwise, counterclockwise, whatever works best for you. And all the way around, on all 4 sides, we are going to score at 1 inch. Okay, so that's what we've got. So we've got a 1/4 inch all the way around because we scored at 1 inch on all 4 sides. Then what we're going to do is we are going to, right at this corner, we are going to cut that off. And do you see how I got right up to that corner? Right here. That's what I cut away. And then we're going to rotate it around, and we're going to do the same thing to the parallel side. So I cut that off again right to the corner. So this is what we have. We have this kind of diamond shape. And then what we're going to do is we are going to cut all the way from this long corner to this long corner. So the longest distance, we're going to cut all the way down the center. Okay? So this is what we have. Okay? Now, these, we're going to treat these like the Martha Stewart lines. Those two long scores. We're going to fold away from the score, and it kind of makes a little bird here. If you can see. I think you can see. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of chop those little tails off. We're just going to follow the edge of that. And what do you know? We have a photo corner, and it's already got that, oops, got away from me. And it's already been covered with that pretty little triangle to cover up over that. And so here we go again. We're going to trim them off. That other one got a little wonky somehow. And there we go. And so this will go on here. Maybe I can show you on the paper. So that's how he'll look. See, he's much more finished than, where did the Martha Stewart one go? Oh, here he is. Okay, so here's the Martha Stewart one, which is very cute. And if you have the punch and you want to use it, then go right ahead. But if it starts catching up on stuff, then you might have to cut the little triangle over top of it like I did. Or if you don't have it, or you like this look better, that one got a little wonky, you can always put these on. So there you go. Now, I've done up quite a few of these already, and so now you know how to make your photo corner. And we're going to attach them on right now. So let's go ahead and start out with, I've got some papers here, and so these are already cut up, and so let's go ahead and figure out what order we want these in. So I usually separate mine. Okay, so I put all my darks together. These are all my darks, and then I've got that's fairly dark, and we've got our reds. So I try to even it out. And so because I have the most darks, I'm going to start with the dark. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with this one. And then I'm going to pick one from another category. Like, for example, I'm going to pick from our reds. And then these two are our lights, and this one's just kind of in between. And so I've got a dark, I've got a red. Let's go ahead and do a light. And then let's go ahead and throw our medium in there. And then let's do another dark, and a red, and a light, and then we'll end up with a dark again. And so that kind of gives us a balance of color. So that's the order I want to put them in. So I can just leave them in that. And so what we're going to do is, first off, I'm going to ink this up. And because this is paperweight, it doesn't take long. Can't wait to get the new inking tools by Tim Holtz. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I've got my photo corners here. I've got some, I'm going to pull out 4 of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit of ATG angled in the corners. And this is what's going to hold on. So what I did, if you can see, let's see. Okay, yeah, you can kind of see. Do you see how I angled that ATG in the corner? So again, not perfect, but the ATG is in the corner of all four corners, and what we're going to do is we're going to put the photo corners on the front. Okay, let's see. And there's that one straight. So then we're going to kind of pinch them together, and that's going to hold them on the back. Okay, that one got a little bit tight because it's paperweight, I think is why. So best to use this on some real cardstock. I really love the paper though. So basically I'm just pinching those down and we're just holding them there temporarily. And we're going all the way around. Again, this would work much better if it were cardstock, which I might have to switch over to. So I've pinched those down. So once those are on there, I'm going to go over it again with my ATG. And I'm going to make sure that I go over top of those photo corners. Now, if I were not using paperweight, which I'm not even sure if I really want to do this, I think I might actually change this around. Okay, I'm going to pull these off, and we're going to go with Plan B. All right, so let's go ahead and pull those off. And those are all off, and so I am going to, I have got some cardstock already cut out that are 4x6, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. This already has ATG on the back of it. I am going to just reinforce this with real cardstock, and so now we've got something solid, something that we can work with. So note to y'all, don't even waste your time with the paperweight, because it's just too much trouble. It's just too much trouble. It's just the photo corners keep on trying to warp it. So again, see how much easier that these, it's holding its form, so it's much easier to use. And to get these little guys on there, and you just get them on, and you give them a little pinch. And you give them a little pinch. And one more. Let's see, is this the one that we used? We're going to get a little pinch. Okay, and I usually only use the, and I'm going to straighten those out, I usually only use the ATG just to hold them in place. And now that I've got a cardstock back, I am going to use my glue, and I'm going to make sure that I get it on those photo corners to really get those glued down so they don't lift. I much prefer this. And I still get to keep the paper that I want. So I would say it's a win-win there. Okay, so remember with glue, when you're using glue, you need to, it's a quick dry, not an instant dry. So make sure that you give special attention to your corners, because those are the weak spots. So that is laying down. Okay, so now we can test it, and we've got a 4x6 right here, and we can slide that, and those photo corners should allow us. Now sometimes you need to do a slight bit of trimming, but there you go. See, if that were a photo, we'd be able to slide it right in there, or like this, you know, you could always add more recipe cards. So I want to be careful because that glue's not quite dry. So I don't want to overdo it. But there we go. So there's the beginning. So there we go. So there's our cute little homemade photo corners. And so you get to enjoy the pretty pattern paper. And if you want to slide photos in there or more recipe cards, you absolutely can. And so these will go on, and I did not ink it up. So let me ink that. Our mushrooms. I try not to ink straight over my projects because the little thingies fall off. Let's go ahead and, those got a little curled in the package. Alright, so we're going to do our glue. And we are going to center it. And that is the beginning of our recipe book. Now I'm not going to pattern the whole thing because it's all going to go exactly the same way. So, but what I am going to show you is for the inserts, I have chose this red and brown, although the red's looking, again, neon. The color is just off. Now these are cut to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and you can see they stick out a little bit. They're supposed to stick out. That's what you pull them from. Okay, so those stick out just a little bit, just like they're supposed to. Now what I'm going to do on these is I am going to round the corners. Now I'm using an EK Success corner rounder, and I like to do it from the back because I can see exactly where I'm going, what I'm chomping off. And this is a 1/2 inch rounder. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick from the back here, and these will sit right on here, and I am going to go ahead and I'm going to leave these square, leave the recipe card square, and round the edges because I like the look of that. So I'm going to ink that up. And so this will give us one recipe card on the page, and then 2 more in the pockets, and then of course if you wanted to add another one here you could, and then also on the back side of each one of these. And so you can get quite a few. You could end up getting, let's see, that would be for 6 per page. So you could get up to 48 recipe cards in this album if you wanted to maximize every 4 by 6 or 6 by 4, depending on how you look at it, surface with a recipe card. You absolutely could. And so here's this one, and it's all ready to go, and he just slides in here. And then the brown one, he will get his corners rounded and have a recipe card on him as well. And I usually stagger them out like this so that you can see both colors. And so there you guys go. That is how I make my simple recipe book, and it can easily be done with other papers, and you can use this as a photo 4 by 6 photo book. This is wonderful to gift because whoever you gift it to, it's next to no work. All they have to do is take their picture and slide it right in there, and you get to do your little decorations over here, and it's a ready to go album. So thank you guys for watching. And oh, there is one other thing we need to do, and I wanted to give you some dimensions on our cover. Whew, almost ended too quick. So what I have here is, this is a 5 by 7, or 7 by 5 rather. And what I did on my pattern paper is I just cut it 1/8 inch smaller in both directions. So on this one we have 6 7/8 and 4 7/8. And then on the spine, I did it, I believe I did it 2 3/8 on the spine, just like that. And then again, we did the 1/8 inch smaller on all edges, and that way we have this nice thin black border, because this cardstock is much more durable, especially than this paperweight material. And I don't even cover over the edges because that's where the most wear and tear is, and this paper will definitely crack and rip, and so to avoid that, I just don't even put the paper there. And so that's how I'm going to do my cover, and that does wrap it up. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to email me direct at paperhoarderdisorder@gmail.com, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.